Good evening, Emanuel. Now, you see, a couple months ago, I'd agreed to a proposition that you had a while ago. You said you needed an arch nemesis. Now, couple issues. First of all, I've never picked up that trash game, League of Legends, in my entire life. I would never download some trash like that. That's fucking crazy. I don't know why you'd even suggest that that should be a stipulation. I think the fact that League of Legends was even on that list of stipulations is a crazy fucking start. So, beyond that, I just kind of accept it as a bit. Ordinarily, I was not gonna follow up on this. Ordinarily, I would not even talk about this. Ordinarily, this wouldn't become anything real. But you gotta understand something. Emanuel, you posted a really trash video today. One of the worst takes I've ever seen in my entire life. Honestly, it's probably bottom 10 takes of all time when it comes to like the internet. You were saying, why are we slandering?
Why is everybody hating on Sword Art Online as if it's not a pioneer anime, bro? Like, yeah, season 2 and 3 were not that good, I agree. But season 1, you don't understand, man. You can't hate on it.
I absolutely can, and I absolutely will. Let me talk about this. So first of all, one of the stipulations you had is they had to be go to the art. Now, here's the deal. I don't have any new art for you, but I do have a lot of game dev that I have not updated on. And so, there's going to be a 2-for-1 here. First of all, I'm going to be flexing on you with all my new game dev shit. And second of all, I'm going to be showcasing my new game dev shit. So, that's what this is going to be. So I'm gonna cycle through some of the animations while I talk about how trash Sword Art Online is for a second. First of all, biggest missed opportunity of all time. When it comes to like animes that fail ultimately their thesis statement, nobody, like literally nobody, has ever come close to the level of absolute fumble that that Sword Art Online made it to. And that's because of their initial mission statement that there was 100 levels to that tower. And they did not even attempt to make it to 100 levels. They did not even try. They saw 100 and they're like, fuck it. And they just did a couple random levels. I don't remember exactly what the levels were, but what I do remember is that the whole thing, the entire show, didn't even stop at a level 100. It didn't even like skip until they made it to level 100. At least that would be a little bit more excusable. No, they made it to level 64 or something. They made it to level 64 and then suddenly they're like, okay, I guess we're done. They made it to level 64 and then the fucking, the creator of the game sees Kirito, who's low-key been hacking this entire time because he has an ability nobody else has for no reason. And it's not even explained as like, oh man, he got it from being like one of the beta testers because nobody else has it, none of the other beta testers. Some of them have unique abilities, but that's never like explored upon either. But they look at this, and then suddenly he jumps Kirito halfway through the show, bro. Show's not even finished. Mind you, they're at level 64, right? It's a 24 episode anime, something like that. Episode 12, they stop at 26, and they don't even give you the satisfaction of learning what had happened on level 100. No. At level 64, they stop it. They're just like, nah, we're done. That's all we need. They're just like, nah, 64, that's a good number. That's a solid number, It's almost there. Nobody really cares. Who's really gonna think about this anyways? And honestly, I think about it. I think about it often. I think about it so regularly it actually pisses me off. I think about it, it keeps me up at night thinking about how trash that anime was. And honestly, it did get me into anime, and that's the sad part about it, is that it was one of the first anime. And this is a milestone for me. One of the first anime where I low-key felt a little bit bad for watching it because that scene with Asuna. Now, I'm not gonna get into it here, but you know the scene. You're talking about Sword Art Online, so you know. And I want to remind you, that scene was not season 2. That scene was season 1, like halfway through, like 2/3 of the way through, while they're in the fairy shit. Now, see, that's the even crazier part, is they did not give up on the VR shit. They were not like, oh man, this VR shit is not working out. We gotta move on to a different gimmick for our show. No, they stuck with it. They stuck with the VR shit and they went to a different game, bro. A different game. You would assume that not only would the company go under, but VR as a whole would have just gone under. But even ignoring that shit, because that's like suspension of disbelief, right? Even suspending our disbelief for a little bit. We're talking about like what really is possible, right? Ignoring all of that. Why on earth would Kirito keep all of his reflexes from the sword game in real life when his body is canonically atrophied to like hunger levels, like exhaustion, like a level where he should theoretically not be able to come back from for like several reasons, like mental, physical, all types of health issues he should be having from the atrophy of not eating for months straight, right? So, I mean, that's a minor plot hole. Why don't we go back to Sword Art Online, right? Because, you know, the fairy shit got its own problems, like randomly adopting an AI child. That whole arc with Asuna was fucking weird. It was they just adopted a child in AI, and they're just like, yep, that's gonna be the plot, is just slice of life, domestic. And I enjoyed that shit. Honestly, if that was the whole show, I might have fucked with it. But they didn't. They did all the other shit. So the rest of it, on episode like 2 or 3, there was a serial killer. He was killing people in the game. He was hunting low-level players and just killing them for no reason. Now, my issue is not the fact that he has no reason. It's actually quite the opposite. I'm pissed that we did not explore that more. It had been canon at that point that they are not the only group of people that think they are above reality, that think they are above shit, and think that they have a moral right, a moral obligation to just kill people just because they can, right? It is canon. It is confirmed that they are not the only ones with that mindset, and yet we don't even touch on it once. After that point, it's just over. After that point, you know, we're just expecting to move on. That would have been such an interesting plot hook, talking about, you know, the different scenarios. It could have been a reoccurring antagonist. Could have been a million different things, but it wasn't. Now, honestly, you know, that's whatever, right? A lot of shows have that issue where they dangle a bit of intrigue and they don't capitalize it and they move on. But this is not the only time that shit happens in Sword Art Online. In fact, that shit happens so frequently. It is basically this entire show's mission statement is to introduce a baller idea and then absolutely fumble the fucking bag. And that's true with Kirito ending the game halfway through. That's true with the fairy shit just happening in general. That's true with Kirito's dual wielding ability. That's true with you know, the world building of the player economy. That's true with the world building of the society. That's true with the world building of the murderers. And that's true with, honestly, the world building of the fairy shit, because that whole thing was a fever dream. Like, the fact that that's season 1, that's not even season 2. They just randomly decided to switch games halfway through is bizarre to me. It's genuinely baffling. It's one of the most absurd choices I've ever seen made in a TV show ever in my entire life. Was they just randomly decided, oh man, we're just gonna switch. What? You had a winning formula with Sword Art Online. Now, ignoring that, right? Even if you were to just say, okay, we're done with Sword Art Online, right? Why was the focus not the, like, effect that Sword Art Online had, bro? Why was the next mission statement, why was it not a slice of life talking about the effects of trauma that Sword Art Online had on these people, bro? See, I think that could have been interesting. That would have at least excused it to me. That would have been like, oh, okay, we're ending the show at level 50 for some bum-ass reason, and now all these people are out of here. Now let's talk about what life is like after that. But they don't talk about life after that. They immediately go back into a different video game, the fairy one. And the fairy one, dude, I don't even remember a lot of what happened in the fairy one besides incest and, you know, SA. It just seemed like a weird way for the writer to slip in their like freaky shit without really having to like make a new show for it. They're just like, man, same show, we're just gonna add all this weird shit in it, and we're just gonna do it just cause. And so, you know, as a pillar of anime, I can't discredit of that. It is. It is absolutely what brought a lot of people into anime. It got a lot of people into intrigue. It got me into anime, right? One of the first animes I've ever seen. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Sword Art Online is not one of the worst fucking animes I've ever seen in my life. I've been watching anime a fuck ton of times since then, and I will tell you, SAO is bottom like 10, bro. Like that's up there with Mushoku Tensei. Like that's like SAO is just the blueprint for what Mushoku Tensei became, bro. So, you know, before you post any more of those bum ass takes about Sword Art Online, I want you to actually really think about what Sword Art Online is, bro. One of the weirdest shows of all time. One of the worst anime to ever come out in this modern generation. I still can't believe they're making more of that shit. Sword Art Online Astralization was a crazy fucking move. Gun Gale Online was tight though. You know, I really fuck with the main character. That one was tough. Not SAO 2. I want to talk about Gun Gale Online as a spin-off, not as Sword Art Online 2, where Gun Gale Online was present but not like the focus. That one was weird because Kirito cheated on his wife. Have a good one, Emanuel, and I hope that you really are kicking the air right now, because that's honestly one of the worst takes I've ever seen anyone have on this platform. Eat grass.
You're counting on the shit in the sky, caught up in the world of life. Everyone knows that you got a period of